We have been taking our training seriously, Haddock says loudly. We have been doing it every day since the ritual. What more do you want from us, you senile old hag? I want you to take initiative, Araka says. I want you to surpass your damn limits and go way beyond them. What is she? Fucking Super Saiyan 3? Don't just blindly follow my training programs like some brainless puppets. You're aiming to kill a god. How are you planning to do something like that if you can still be so easily defeated by two measly royal guards? I don't understand why you care so much about this, Kate says as she's leaning with her back against the wall, crossing her arms, looking at the amulet. You usually like to treat everything as a joke, but for some odd reason, I never see you do that when you're talking about or training to kill the god of time. Why is that? Because this isn't a damn joke. This isn't a joke, damn it, Araka says. Do you have any idea how many thousands of years I waited to take my revenge on these self-proclaimed gods from the magical plane? After all this time, even if I were to kill them myself in the most painful way I can think of, it still wouldn't be enough. But to have them killed by a circus troupe like you, that would be the cruelest and the most humiliating death imaginable for a being made of pure magic that has reached that level of power. Ever since Barry Boy gave me that idea, I couldn't even think of a more fitting an end for an arrogant sack of trash like Selkrum. One way or the other, I'm going to make this happen, and you losers had better not stand in my way. Well, it's reassuring that you're not doing things on a whim for once, Darren says. Would you by any chance also happen to have some concrete advice for us? Or are you just going to keep hurling insults at us until we get better? No, I'll give you some concrete advice, Dwarf says. Hey, Dwarf. Araka says, hey dwarf, what the hell was up with that pathetic performance you showed us earlier today against the giant buddy of yours? All he had to do was say 2 words to you and he completely threw you off your game. Is that how much of a wuss you are? 2 meager words, all it takes to turn you from a battle-hardened warrior to clumsy tavern brawler. If I say those 2 words to you now, are you going to spend a whole day moping again? Well, here, I'm going to say them. Dwarf village, dwarf village, dwarf village. Are you going to cry now, little giant? Araka, Darren says with an angry look in her eyes. If you say one more word, I'm going to... No, she's right, and Adric says. I should not have let him get to me like that with only a few words. If Barry had managed to keep Gontork busy while I was unconscious, he may well have killed you all, and it would have been my fault. I wouldn't let it happen again. You better not, Araka says, because if we ever get close to finishing off Selkrum and you mess up because he triggers some repressed memory of yours by saying a few random words, I swear that I will put my fingers through your eye sockets and rip your skull from your spine. On that note, how about you work on your actual combat techniques too, and not just on your mental fortitude? I've seen you practicing some new moves in the last few days, but you didn't use a single one of them in today's fight. What were you waiting for, a formal invitation? I didn't know that you've been practicing techniques lately, Hardrick, Darren says. If you wanted ideas for new moves, you could have asked me for some pointers. Well, actually, it was your story about how you got your scar that made me want to start training again, Hardrick says. Remember how I said that I found your story to be oddly inspiring. That was when I decided to take my weakness a little more seriously and to begin testing new techniques to overcome them. Unfortunately, I wasn't really ready to use them in battle just yet, and that's how that bastard Gontok managed to catch me off guard. But I'll make sure to perfect my new moves tonight. I'm not going to take any more chances this time around. Good for you, Araka says. Now shut up, I'm not done giving concrete advice yet. Hey Kate, I'm going to ask you this very bluntly. Why is it that... What is with you and freezing attacks? Do you have an allergy to them or something? I've barely seen you use them since I've met you, even though they are by far the strongest attack in your arsenal when used against enemy mages. It's always icicles with you. Here's an idea. How about you diversify your attacks a little instead of being so predictable? I use icicles because they are the most efficient, Kate says. They have the longest range, they pack the most power. They are also hard to detect because most enemies don't expect me to conjure them so high up above unless they've already seen me use this attack once. Given that it usually works, I don't see any reason why I should use something else. Why are you trying to dodge the main question, Araka says. What I asked you first was why are you specifically avoiding casting freezing spells? I've seen you do this even in situations when it would have been more advantageous for you to use an ice beam instead of an icicle attack. You can't give me your efficiency excuse in these cases, so what's the real reason then? Kate frowns at Arka's amulet for a few seconds, then she eventually decides to answer the question. The reason is that I have far less control over freezing spells than I have over my icicle attack, Kate says. I can freeze people with my ice beam, but I can't unfreeze them. Once I shoot a beam, it is out of my control. It is different from when I conjure icicles or make a dragon out of ice. The ice is something that I can control at will. I can also make it disappear whenever I want to. The same cannot be said about any of my freezing spells. There's also the fact that shooting icicles allows me to attack my targets with pinpoint accuracy, whereas most of my freezing spells affect a larger area. If I were to hit someone by mistake, there would be no way for me to undo the effect. If I am to use a freezing attack, it's typically going to be only when I'm absolutely certain that I won't hit any of my allies with it by accident. Blah blah blah. Arka says, all I'm hearing is more whining excuses. You don't know how to unfreeze people, then learn how to do it. It's as simple as that. I've already tried doing it countless times, Kate says. Doesn't work. Then try harder, Arka says. Or ask someone, for crying out loud. You have 2 other elementalists in your team aside from you. One of them happens to be an ethereal. You have any idea how many perks you get just from being an ethereal? This girl can learn in one day what it would have taken normal mage years to master. Surely there is at least something she can tell you to get you on the right track. I think she's asleep right now though, so we probably won't be able to confirm this until tomorrow. Do you think that Flower's ethereal knowledge extends also to ice magic? Is Flower really that talented? How did she not become insanely strong right now? Why don't you tell Kate how to unfreeze people if you're so smart? I don't. The tone of that one is not my favorite. Otherwise, I would have asked her. Yeah, I'm gonna ask this. Why, if she's that talented, why she's not super strong? She is pretty strong by elementalist standards, Araka says. You can't really compare her to the likes of that Earth Elementalist or Melindra, because those two have way more magical power than most normal mages. Besides, you can only go so far by relying on your natural talent. If you want to advance to the next level, you need to also be able to learn spell from books and the likes, which is something that Flower is unfortunately completely incapable of. Anyway, that's not important right now. What currently matters is that Flower is an elementalist like Kate, so she should be able to give her some useful pointers to help her out, right? I say. So if Kate learns how to properly control her freezing spells, will this also help her against the God of Time? Not really, Araka says, but at least it will be a good first step towards teaching her to be a bit more versatile with her spells. She can't just keep relying on the same long distance attack over and over again. Maybe Flower can give her some ideas of what new spells she could come up with. I've noticed that the little girl can be pretty resourceful when it comes to this sort of stuff. Alright, so now that we have got that settled, the next thing we need to talk about is the Captain of the Royal Guard. This one's going to be a bit tricky, really. I'd like to teach you all how to counter that guy's aura manipulation technique, but I don't think I have enough time for it. With the way things are going right now, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys had a rematch with him as soon as tomorrow. So we're going to need a more immediate solution to this problem. In other words, the next time when that old guy shows up, I want you all to leave him to Darren. Me? Darren says surprised. Yes, you. Araka says, you mean you said you finally understood what it means to untangle the flow of an aura, didn't you? Well, the same concept applies when an enemy tries to envelop you in his own aura so that he can push you to the ground. Oh, so he needs to untangle the aura. You just untangle his aura, and when you're able to move freely through it, obviously, since you're dealing with an enemy trying to attack you and not just a bunch of sick people in an infirmary, it's going to be a lot harder for you to pull it off. But if you actually put that enchanted swords of yours to good use, you should be able to handle it. You do understand how you would be able to untangle your aura by using a sword, right? Yeah, Darren says, yeah, I think I do. Good, Araka says, well, I believe that should be all for now. If I remember anything else, I'll be sure to let you know tomorrow. Actually, now that I was thinking about it, there was one last thing I wanted to discuss tonight. Hey Rose, are you still there? There's no answer coming from my transceiver. After waiting for a few more seconds, Araka calls out to her again, this time in a louder voice. Hey Rose, Araka shouts, are you still there or not? There are some more silence for a while, then you hear the sounds of hurried footsteps getting gradually louder as Rose gets back to her transceiver. Sorry, Rose says, Susie couldn't sleep, so I had to I went to get some snacks for the pantry. Did I miss something important? No, but there was something that I wanted to ask you about your time powers. Araka says, did Barry tell you what you need to do before the next God of Time ritual? Oh, yes, Rose says. He said that I need to make sure that God of Time won't be able to steal my powers again. I've been working on it, but you don't know where to begin with your training. Araka says, no, it's not that. Rose says, I think I know what I need to do, but it's really hard to tell if I'm doing it right without some sort of way to test my results. Don't worry about that, Arka says. As long as you feel that you know what you're doing, it is more than enough for the time being. For the time being. Not, I thought time being as in like a entity, time being.